Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Before I begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, share them with your friends, and please comment. It helps this channel out a great deal. Now, today is August 26th, 2020, and I am speaking with Amanda. Amanda is a survivor of the Circle of Hope Girls Ranch in Missouri. Let's get to her story. Welcome to the show,
Okay.
Amanda. Okay, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Appreciate you being on. It's I know that I believe it was
Thank,
Mackenzie that said that you wanted to come on. So and
yes, thank you for having me. And it was Mackenzie that reached out to me. It was really funny because I was like talking to Janine Miller. I was like, I think I'm going to reach out to the Hammer podcast. And like literally the next day, Mackenzie sent me your info. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay, it's meant to be. So,
so go ahead and start off from the beginning. I mean, you know whatever you want to say about yourself or and your time there, of course. So you go right ahead.
okay. Um, so my name is Amanda Householder. My parents are Boyd and Stephanie Householder. Um, they currently own and operate Circle of Hope Girls Ranch and Boarding School in Humansville, Missouri. Thankfully, August 14th and 15th, DSS and Cedar County Sheriff's Department did remove 25 girls from their facility. So there are, at this moment, no girls at the facility, and an investigation is going on.
Oh, excellent.
But yeah, my story actually starts way before Circle of Hope was even opened. I was born into an independent fundamental Baptist family. My dad was running for a really long time from the independent fundamental Baptist religion, but once him and my mom got together, they started going back to church. And one of the times we were at church, a school called Faith Children's Home from Tampa, Florida, came to the church we were at. The head of the school gave a sermon, and the girls sang, or not the girls, but the school sang. It was a co-ed school. And at the end, my parents and the owner started talking, and the owner's like, I think you should come work for us, which worked out perfectly for my parents because at this point in time, we were living with my mom's mother, and she was Catholic, and they did not like, if you know anything about the Baptist religion, they're not really good fans of Catholicism.
Yes, I know.
And so
I
they never really, yeah.
I grew up in
So
the Baptist religion with Lester Roloff over there in
I,
Corpus Christi. So
yeah, so they like did not like my grandma at all. But my parents raised us on this book called To Train Up a Child by Debbie Pearl. And my grandma witnessed my dad beat me extremely bad one night because I refused to eat my food. And then after the beating, he picked me up and basically threw me into the chair and told me I will eat. And so my grandma contacted CPS, and an investigation was started. But because this church came, my parents just went and worked at the school, and that's basically when my time within the troubled teen industry started.
okay.
So 93, I started working at Hope Children's Home, or Faith Children's Home in Tampa. We ended up leaving because they wanted to start their own school, and
Okay.
we moved to Virginia. But that didn't happen because they didn't have like church support. They didn't have any of that. And so we ended up moving back to that same school now called Hope Children's Home, and that was in 1998, the year after my sister had passed away. And so we started working there, and when we were working there, there was this lady, her name is actually Lucinda Pennington. She started allowing the students, like the girl students, to wear boy shorts. She started allowing the boys and girls to talk. She started allowing a lot of the things you're not supposed to do in the independent fundamental Baptist religion.
Right.
And so I was told we left because of that. So from Faith Children's or Hope Children's Home in 2001, we moved to Stockton, Missouri, to a boys' boarding school that was also Independent Fundamental Baptist called Agape Boys Ranch. Now, this school was a little bit different than Faith Children's Home and Hope Children's Home. This school was only boys. This school, they did a lot of abusive punishments. When I say abusive, I mean picking up the kids and restraining them. There was this room specifically for restraining, and it was weird because it was right next to the girls' staff girls' bathroom, and you could open up a door and go into that restraining room, and it was covered with carpet. We would see boys, because when the staff yelled restrain, the women would have to leave and the boys would have to get up and move. But after the restraint, after they got the boy up into the restraining room, the staff women could come back in, and the boys started going back to normal. So we would see those boys come out of that restraining room with bloodied faces.
Oh.
I didn't know exactly what was going on in that room until years later, and I started talking to these boys, and they were my friends. And they were 5-point restraining, but before that, they would throw them up against the wall, and it would be 5 staff to one boy. So they did rock hauling here, where you would take one rock to another pile, and then you just keep moving the rock pile all over this huge property. I would say 100-acre property in 100-degree weather, and that would every Saturday the boys would be doing that. They would do push-ups, jumping jacks, and normal workouts. But the thing is, with everyone's oh, PT is not abuse. That's correct. I get that. The push-ups, the jumping jacks, that's fine. But having to do it for hours until your muscles are weak and you can't do it anymore, your face is all red, you're in tears.
Yeah.
That's not normal. So that is not normal at all. In 2006, my parents decided, in 2005, my parents started talking about opening up a girls' ranch. They always said it was because Agape was a boys' ranch and they didn't want to compete with Agape because they have hundreds upon hundreds of boys.
Right.
But Agape also has a girl part of them. So just the more and more I look back, I am starting to realize that the reason they started a girls' ranch is for my dad's own perversions. And I will get into that a little bit later. In 2005, they started talking about this. So in 2006, we found this property from a man. We started going to a whole bunch of different churches trying to get support from churches to pick us up.
Okay.
We went to this church in Dunnigan, Missouri, and there was this man that sat behind us. His name was Kenneth, and my dad preached and sat down, and the guy tapped him on the back and was like, I have a property for you. We go out to this property, and it was a nice property, a 10-building bedroom with 5 bathrooms, because it would be a bedroom, a bathroom, a bedroom, a bathroom.
Okay.
And so the guy gave it to my parents. They would try to pay him, but he never accepted the payments. This man had a good heart and he thought he was doing something good. So they opened their doors July 1st, 2006. They opened their doors with just 3 girls. In the beginning, the first 2 months, it wasn't bad. It was honestly an extreme vacation for me, because my childhood was full of beatings with golf sticks, beatings with horse crops, beatings with his fist, his hands, just anything he could do to make us in pain, he would do that. But during these 2 months, it was completely different. We could play outside. We could, as long as we did our chores, cleaning the house, because this guy that gave us the property was a hoarder. And so we had to scrub out freezers full of blood. We had to scrub fly poop off the wall. We had to completely do this house. And so in the beginning it was fine. The moment they started getting more girls is when it started getting Agape. There was a girl who was one of the first girls. She was only eating pickles and mustard. I was in charge of the kitchen, and I was only 15. I did not know that I should have been checking the girls' food and making sure they ate everything. So literally this girl was only eating pickles and mustard, and she dropped a lot of weight. And so they started implementing double portions, triple portions, and half portions. This girl got put on triple portions where she had to eat 2 bowls of cold oatmeal and a normal size portion of food. If she did not finish her food, that food would be wrapped up and put in the fridge.
Huh.
Then they started doing restrainings and the workouts. Now, like I said, the workouts wouldn't be an issue if it weren't for the fact that these girls were being forced to do push-ups for hours. There was a girl that was in push-up position all day long.
Oh.
And I'm not even lying. Outside, we would be working in the horse pen, and she would have to be in push-up position. And then if we have to move to like a different part of the pen, she would have to get up, walk, and then go right back into push-up position. This girl was in push-up position all day long. And if she like did not remain in push-up position, she would be restrained. And what I mean by restraining at Circle of Hope is they didn't have a room. My dad would do it anywhere. There was a little 11-year-old girl who was picked up by her neck, thrown to the ground on the gravel. My dad yelled restrain, and the moment he yelled restrain, every higher up shirt, when I say higher up shirt, there's red shirts, but they're still teenagers. They could be 14, 15, 16, 17. Has to get on this girl and push all of our weight on her pressure points. The thing about that is my dad would make us go until she was screaming loud enough in pain. We would be on these girls for hours, pushing our weight on their pressure points, and my dad would be on their neck with his knee for hours. Like, I think the most was like an hour and 45 minutes. And I didn't know until this year, one of the girls that we had to restrain actually lost feeling in her fingers for months. And honestly, I feel like that, to me, is probably the most traumatizing part of it all, is because they were teenagers having to do this to their peers. I was a teenager having to do this to my peers. But August 2006, myself and 2 of the students ran. The reason why was mainly because of the extreme abuse that was happening and us having to do it to the girls. But one of the girls I ran away with came to me and told me my dad was sexually touching her. And so that night we got trash bags and started gathering a whole bunch of stuff up. My mom's cousin in 2004 let me go stay with her for a little bit, because when we had like a family gathering, she just knew I was sad. And she's like, I just wanted to give you some sort of freedom. And so while I was up there with her in Michigan, I bought pants, which is a huge no-no within the IFB religion. And so I hid those pants from my parents, and we took those pants with me. We took a whole bunch of other clothes that I wasn't supposed to have, but I kept. And we climbed out my window, and I called up a friend, and he took us all the way to New Mexico. By the time I got to New Mexico, I had never in my life been on my own in the real world. I have always been sheltered in one of these troubled teen industries. I was petrified.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so I called I was just like hearing of gangs and all of that stuff. I was just like, I'm going to die. So I called my grandma up, and I told her, the only reason I will tell you where I'm at is if you promise me you will not tell Mom and Dad. She's like, oh, talk to Grandpa. And so my grandpa has always been like the person that could calm me down. They would take us to Busch Gardens, and I would be too short to get on a ride, and I would be mad, and I would be like giving him an attitude. If it was my dad would have beaten me. My grandpa, he would pick me up, send me on his lap, and sing me a song and calm me down. And so he convinced me to tell him where I was at, and my grandma paid for my dad's plane ticket and her plane ticket to El Paso, Texas. They came and got me out of a safe house and took me home. This was 2 months after they opened their school. The moment I got home, They put me in an orange shirt and threw me on the wall. The wall is where you have to stand with your feet basically touching the wall and your nose touching the wall. You can only stare at the wall or read your Bible. You have to wait for them to give you permission to go to the bathroom. You have to wait for them to give you permission to eat. You have to wait for them to give you permission for anything. I got a severe UTI, and the only reason why I'm even bringing that up is because those girls had to stand on the wall for months on end. If you were a black shirt and my dad did not like you, you would be on that wall for months on end. I am positive those girls had severe UTIs. I am positive they were in pain from having to stand on the wall all day, because I know that's what I was feeling when I was on the wall. I was never treated like a girl in the program except for that one time. My punishments were always different. They were a little more, I don't want to say physical, because the restraining, I was never restrained, and I would take a spanking over restraining any day. And when I say spanking, my dad would use a golf stick, a horse crop, or his belt, and he would beat me anywhere from my lower legs to the back of my neck.
Ow.
I would not ever want to be restrained, because I don't know how to explain it. He's not trained, and I'm not saying that restraining is okay, but the way he does it is,
if you're not,
these girls could die.
if you're not
There was
trained,
a boy this year.
if you're not trained, then yes, you can put pressure somewhere where they can't breathe, or it crushes something. Yes, they can die. That is dangerous.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And he's using teenagers
Yeah.
to do this to other teenagers.
Ugh.
And that's, to me, is like, when I found out about Cornelius Frederick this year, I lost it. I was like, that's, and I'm not trying to project, but I'm like, that could have been any one of us restraining our friend, because we had to restrain our friends. Like, we weren't even allowed to be friends, but we were all extremely close because we knew what we were going through was wrong. But that could have, I don't know, I didn't get that far. I never killed anyone, but that kills me just thinking. There was a girl, her name was Rachel Kelso. She was sent to Circle of Hope in 2007, and I think she was 15. She was mentally handicapped, and she was like a little 5-year-old child. She was the sweetest person ever. She would be getting out of a restraint, and she would see you crying, and she would be like, hey, have a good day, and like show you her muscles, because she was always in push-up position. She was always getting push-ups. She was the strongest person there, mentally and physically, I say, because she was always smiling. That girl, there was never anything that her smile could not cure. But she was always picked on. She was always being restrained. She was the one that was in push-up position all day long. We all had to restrain her for hours on end. They would circulate girls on her, and no child deserves that, but she definitely did not at all deserve that. And the most messed up part about that whole thing is she did not get out of Circle of Hope until this year. She was a 30-year-old woman being subjected to restraining at Circle of Hope because she was left there, and her parents didn't take her out.
Wow.
Until this year. And we finally spoke out and got her out, but she was there for 15 years.
Do you know where she's at now?
And she was the one that, I don't, that's the saddest part. They said that she got sent back home, but the thing is, her parents sent her siblings to Agape. Her girl siblings got sent to, there was a Mountain Park boarding school, and Wings of Faith, which is the girl version of Agape, and Circle of Hope. I don't think they wanted to take care of their kids. And I don't mean that because I know there are parents that do, but this specific set of parents sent their kids away, 7 kids that they adopted out of the Philippines, all to an independent fundamental Baptist school until they were 18, except except this one girl. Her name is Rachel Kelso. She was left there until this year. She was 30. And the only reason, and I say the only reason she got out is because myself and the other survivors started hashtagging "Where is Rachel Kelso" everywhere, because we all remember how she was treated there. She was treated worse than anyone there because of her mental disability.
So she was.
So I don't.
She was like slow. Was she? What was wrong with her? Do you know?
I don't know her specific mental disability. She was slow.
Okay.
They had her in 2013 declared mentally unfit to take care of herself. I honestly think she would be able to take care of herself if she was given a healthy environment to thrive in, because she always wanted to. She seemed like an 8-year-old girl, but she always seemed like she wanted to take care of herself. She wanted independence. So if she was put in a group home that helped her take care of herself, I seriously think she would thrive. I think she would be like living her best life. But because Circle of Hope had her declared unfit to take care of herself, her parents just left her there, and they were receiving her Social Security in exchange for her being there all the time.
And disability.
And disability, as far, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they didn't want her; they just wanted the money. Yeah.
Exactly. And honestly, the way they treated her was, the girls were treated bad, but she was treated, and any other girl will tell you the same thing, she was treated way worse, because not only was she being picked on by my parents, she was being picked on by the girls as well, because when you're in Circle of Hope, it's a dog-eat-dog world. You have to do what you have to do to survive. And so if my father is picking on one specific girl, you're going to pick on that one specific girl to get in his good graces, so you're not being picked on. And so that's how it was. And the saddest thing is there would be 30 girls at one point picking on this one poor woman. Like, when I say poor, I mean because she didn't know. She had no idea. She was doing her normal, like, she couldn't control her emotions. She would cry, and that would make them more mad, and that would get her restrained, and that would be restraining for hours.
Right.
And it's just sad.
Yeah, so it could be that she's probably a ward of the state, maybe. Has anybody tried to get in contact with her, or nobody knows where she's at?
So some girls have reached out to her siblings. Her siblings said she's no longer at that boarding school, which made me worried that she's at a different independent fundamental Baptist school.
Oh, those Baptists.
But I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
That is just sad. Sad. They preach love, and they just beat on you, sexually abuse you, physically abuse you, and that they need to be shut down, I think, all of them. Did they charge the parents for the kids to stay there?
Yes. So when I was there, they went off, like, they would look at your bank statements, and they went off of what they thought you could pay. So there was one parent paying $70 a month. There was another parent paying $1,500 a month. There was another parent, the moment they found out she had money, she had to pay $5,000 up front. But then they also received funding from churches. So we would go around singing to churches, and they would donate to us. I remember being at one church, and they bought us a $10,000 van. So they get funding from churches. Yeah. Now it's a $1,500 flat rate, I think. From what I've been finding out, the parents have all been paying $1,500 a month.
Wow, $1,500 a month to be beaten and abused.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sexually abused. So in 2009, I was kicked out. Within the Baptist religion, you're not supposed to wear pants as a female.
Right.
So there was this one night my dad gave a devotions, and he's talking about how women are going to hell for wearing pants. So if you have a mom and she wears pants, she's going to hell. We had this 5-year-old girl, and she was in tears, And I went up to her and I was like, hey, hon, what's going on? And she's like, I don't want my mom to go to hell. And so I looked at her and I said, sweetheart, if your mom's going to hell for wearing pants, my dad's mom is in hell, my sister is in hell, and my dad's sister is in hell today because they all died and they all wore pants. That got back to my mom and dad somehow. I don't know if one of the girls told him or another, like they had a staff at that time, told him, but that was the last straw. They took my phone from me. They started seeing that I was planning on running, or not running away, but the moment I turned 18, I was planning on leaving. Like, even if that meant I was going homeless, I was planning on getting out of there. And so they took my phone away and they said, you're done. We're getting rid of you. At that time, I was happy because I was finally done with the place, but at the same time, I was scared because I didn't know what they were going to do to me. They put me in a chair outside my dad's office and told me I could not leave that chair at all without their permission. And so for about a month, I was sitting in that chair. And then finally, a family member passed away. And so my grandma was like, hey, I'm going to be up there in March, or not March, I'll be up there in January. And so I'll come get her. And so she came up and got me. And actually on that drive down, my parents called me and my grandma put it on speakerphone, so in the van, and they're cussing me out. They're calling me names. They're saying, you're a little bitch, cunt, all this stuff. And I was like, what the hell? Like, calm down and tell me what's going on. And they're like, Ashley was having sex with Ron and you knew it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I had no idea. The only thing I knew is Ashley, a 17-year-old, and she was my best friend there, was wanting to have sex with another friend husband. This friend was a friend from Agape, and she got married to an Agape student, and they came and worked at my parents' ranch. He was having sex. He was 19, having sex with an underage girl, and they called to blame me and cuss me out for it. But I didn't know. Like, at that time, I didn't know. And if I did know, I would have said something, because my friend Naomi, it was her husband, and they had just had a baby. And so, like, it wasn't like I was hiding anything. But instead of doing the right thing, they let him move back and start working at Agape. And basically, the church that they were attending knew about it, but covered it up. And my parents covered it up as well. They said that they told all the girls that they were going to call the parents and tell the parents what happened, but no parent ever found out. Then I would talk to my parents every once in a while, but it wasn't like I was talking to my parents. It wasn't until 2012 I had my son that I tried getting my relationship back with my parents. And it started going okay, but when my son turned 1, he bit me or he hit me. I can't remember which one, but it was a big no, you don't do this. And so I picked him up, I put him over my knee, and I spanked him. And my husband came running in, and he's like, what did the fuck you do? And I told him, and that started a huge argument. I was like, dude, I will buy you the book. I will buy you the book I was raised on. This is how I was raised. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I was raised this way, and I wasn't trying to give him an excuse. I was just like, this is how we take care of kids. And he convinced me to go to therapy. And this was in 2013. And so I started going to therapy, and I started realizing that I was raised completely wrong. Like, no child should ever be treated the way any of us were treated. So slowly I started.
That's true.
Go ahead.
But sometimes kids need a spanking. I mean, I'm not talking about like what happened to you with the switch on the tree getting smacked in the back of the legs,
Yeah.
I'm talking about just a spanking on the ass, just to say, hey,
spanking.
it's
Yeah.
wrong, don't do that. And of course, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it reminds them, hey, if I do this, I'm going to get a spanking, So, I mean, when I was young, I got spankings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm okay. I mean, I wasn't beaten to the point where I was passed out, but a spanking's not going to hurt.
That is correct. I do have to say, and when I spanked my son the first time, I did not beat him the way I was beaten. It was a little pot on the back, or smacked on the butt. But just now, and like going through therapy and like realizing, I just don't like the feeling I get after. And I'm not saying any other parent should not do the spanking. I'm just saying personally, I don't like that feeling. And so we found other ways around the spanking. I'm not saying that you're wrong for spanking. I'm just saying that's just, for us, that's how we figured.
Right. Every parent has their own way of disciplining. You know, I mean, whether you spank them or you put them in the corner or whatever, it's totally up to you. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not like you didn't do anything wrong, or anybody else who spanks their kids, you know, just a light spanking like you did. It's not doing anything wrong. It's just, this is how they discipline their children. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah. And so around that time, I started like I said, I started going through therapy. I started remembering a lot of things. And so I started reaching out to all the girls that I lost contact with, because I kept telling them to shut up about my parents' school, don't talk about it. Yeah, it was abusive, but we deserved it, blah, blah, blah. Basically the brainwashing stuff.
Right.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. It took me having kids to realize, like, that was wrong. Like, we don't restrain kids. We don't physically beat kids. We don't mentally abuse them. We don't call them whores. We don't tell them they're not going to be good for nothing except selling drugs and prostitution. And most of them were very understanding and said, you were raised that way. Like, we were only there for like 2 years, 4 years. You were born into that. And so that basically started the whole, we need to speak out on this. We need to basically shut them down. I was still talking to my parents, but they didn't know where I stood. It wasn't until 2016 that I had reached out to Dr. Phil I wanted to get on there to basically tell the girls I was sorry. Tell them that I feel bad for everything I did to them while I was there. There were girls that I could not stand because my dad, and I feel so bad now because I didn't realize it then, but he most likely was doing inappropriate things with them. I haven't spoke to them to confirm, but there were girls that he would always have in his office alone with the door partially opened, having them massage his head. He would walk by these same girls, grab them and hug them and kiss them on the cheek, treat them like more so than a daughter, but at that time, he never did that to me. He never hugged me and told me he loved me. He never gave me a kiss. He never did anything like that. Yeah. So I was always jealous of these girls. They were getting more affection than me. And from my own father, like, I wasn't getting this. And so reaching out to a lot of the girls, I started finding out that he was actually, there were girls that he was actually inappropriately touching. There's been multiple girls that have come forward with their sexual assault stories from my dad. And one of the girls was there while I was there. And I called her a cunt, and I was like, don't ever speak to me again, you're lying. And then in 2016, I got a message from a girl. Her name is Carly. And in the letter, she says my dad raped her. And I was like, no, this didn't happen. And then I was like, no, I didn't tell her that. I just, in my head, I was like, no, that didn't happen. And then I was like starting to think of everything, and I was like, okay, well, he would have girls inappropriately in his office massaging heads with the door partially closed, not at all opened. He would touch them on their butt, which I don't know why. I never thought that was wrong. Growing up, I don't know why. I didn't see that. Or not grab their boob, but, like pat them on the boob. I don't know why. It just never dawned on me that was wrong until I was like, okay, reading her letter. It's like, I need to reach out to Maggie. So I called Maggie, and this is the same girl I called a cunt for telling my dad that she was going to the police for the sexual abuse that he did to her. And I said, Maggie, I was like, you have absolutely no reason to lie to me now. Can you please tell me, did my dad sexually molest you? And Maggie starts telling me her story. Maggie's never met Carly. Maggie left in 2012. Maggie never met Carly, and Maggie's story lined up word for word with Carly's, except for the sexual penetration.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to Carly that night, and I said, I am so sorry, Carly. And ever since then, me and her have been like sisters. And I'm so thankful for her because she's made this so. I feel so bad for everything she went through, but she has made this so much easier because I can just call her up, and she's there to listen. It's weird. It's weird that we have this little group of sisters that I don't think they ever realized we're going to be as strong together as we are now, because they tried everything in their power to keep us from being friends.
Is she trying to
Not only
is she trying to take your dad to court or anything, or has the statute of limitations already expired?
So she did try taking my dad to court in the beginning when she reached out to me. I don't know what happened with that. I think money-wise, she couldn't get it. But this year, with everything going public, and we finally have lawyers. We finally have lawyers looking
Good.
into this for us.
Good.
And so, honestly, that was the most, I don't know how to explain it. I just felt so relieved when I was like, hey, Carly, call these people. They want to listen to you. Hey, Maggie, call these people. They want to listen to you. Hey, Ashley, all of these girls that have ever been sexually touched by my dad or my brother, I was like, please, let's just get this.
Yeah.
I know I'm jumping all over the place. I'm so sorry. Like I said, in 2015, I got that message from Carly. But at that point, I had changed my Facebook name from Amanda Householder to Berlin Von Mortis, because I was trying to hide from it.
Uh-huh.
But for some reason that year, Carly messaged me, and then I had a whole bunch of other girls messaging me, telling me their stories. One was kicked out. She was homeless. She needed a place to go. Another one was sexually molested by my brother. There's been girl after girl after girl that has been harmed by this place. And I don't know why, but somehow they found me. And I took that as I need to help them. And so that's where we are today. And that's why we're out fighting as hard as we have, because it just needs to end. No other child should have to go through anything, especially the sexual nature of it.
Right. Right.
At my own father's hands.
I know that's got to be, traumatizing because it's your dad, you know. I mean, you kind of think to yourself, how could my dad do that to people, to these girls, you know?
I never wanted to believe it. He was my dad. Like at one point in my life, I do remember there was a time he was my hero. And now it's all like, he was a fraud. He was nothing but a child abuser.
I've noticed that a lot in Baptist churches. Like I said, I've done interviews with a bunch of ladies, and I mean, sexual abuse just runs rampant there. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if they look to the church as a cover for their perversion. You know, I don't know, but it runs rampant in the Baptist churches.
I know that it runs in my family because my dad's mom's father raped her, and that's why my dad has an older brother. So it runs in my family. I found out this year that my dad's grandpa also sexually molested my dad's sister.
Oh my goodness.
And so when she was young, what my dad's mom said, well, she was old enough to penetrate, which no one knows what that even means other than like you're a sick, perverted woman. So it's something that I do feel my dad grew up around and just watched it get away. Like people get away with it. And unfortunately, he's continuing it. And then my little brother also watched it happen. And watched my father cover it up for him multiple times. And so there were girls that would come to my dad saying, oh, Julian's doing this. And my dad would have the girl write a letter saying that she lied about it. And so Julian at one point even told one of the girls, like, oh, well, my dad's not going to believe you. He's going to believe me. And so, like, that's the type of stuff that at least I saw within the independent fundamental people covering of sexual stuff.
Yeah, they just want to sweep it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen. But of course, you can't keep them silent forever.
Which is not good.
Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't do anyone good. It doesn't do your victim good, and it doesn't do you good because you're not getting the help you need, and what you're doing is completely wrong.
I mean, there's some girls...
So, not you, I'm sorry.
From ladies that I've interviewed, some of them have friends that have committed suicide, because of what's happened to them. And that's... I mean, there's a lady named Lita.
This year alone.
Yeah, there's a lady named Lita that was there at the Roloff homes in the 70s, and she was in the 70s, and she's still traumatized. She still can't leave her home. I mean, it traumatizes you severely, So.
I'm so sorry. I honestly, it's sad to me. I know it's been going on longer, but it's just so sad to me that there are people from the 70s that are still dealing with the trauma that was created by these people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what makes someone think it's okay to treat kids the way that they have been treating kids over the years. Like, it makes no sense to me.
Well,
I don't... I know at all this...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just going to say, I just know at all the schools we were at, they idolized Lester. They, had pictures of him and, everywhere. They idolized him. So I don't know if it's just because they're all like him.
Well, see, the thing is, Lester Roloff, I got a chance to meet him once. I was a little kid back then, but he seemed like a really nice guy. He believed what he preached. You know what I mean? And his problem that I thought was that he would let his sycophants run the homes because he was busy being an evangelist and preaching in other churches all around the country. So he was never there. So basically, it gave his minions a chance to abuse these kids. And of course, being that they're the leaders and friends of Lester Roloff, if anybody was to go up to Lester Roloff and say, hey, Wiley Cameron did this to me, Wiley Cameron's going to go to Roloff and say, I didn't do that. He's full of the devil. You know what I mean? And Roloff would believe him.
Yep.
So, and the thing is, Roloff never charged for the service. He always relied on donations from big donors or church members. He never charged anybody to be in the home. Now, being that they're a shell of their former self, they got to get income, so they're charging now. So to me, it's all about the money. That's what it's about. All about the money. And if you can get away with, touching a girl's boob or smacking her ass or whatever, if you can get away with it, get away with it. That's their mindset. Because who's going to believe those girls? Those girls, they're troubled girls. They'll make up anything just to get out of there.
And that's what they keep saying.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So they figure they can get away with it.
And the thing is, that's far from the truth. Especially, today people keep saying that after we went public and it's on the news. People keep saying, oh, these girls are going to try anything to get out of the residential homes. I'm all like, well, we're 30. We're 30 now.
Right.
What do we have to gain from this? None of us have anything to gain from this except knowing that those kids are not being abused anymore because we're speaking out. Well, that's the only thing that we can even gain from this. And honestly, that's more than money to me.
I think what they're trying to convey to everybody is, well, you were there, you didn't like it there, so now that you're out of there and you're in your 30s, now you want to get back at those people. You know what I mean? That's what they're thinking. Yeah. You want to get back at them, so you're going to say anything.
That one.
Yeah, you're going to say anything to get them in trouble. And the problem is these people are so brainwashed. And they treat these preachers and these leaders like God. I mean, and they can do no wrong. Everything they say is correct. You know, so to try and change their
Yeah.
minds is a very, very difficult process. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. And I'm glad that you and your friends have lawyers. Are they pro bono lawyers? Hopefully, they're doing this for the exposure.
Thankfully, they are.
Good.
So since we went public, I actually called them, and they're like, "Oh my God, we are so glad you called us, Amanda. We've been following the story on the news for a week." And then they're like, "Let me explain to you what our firm does." And I was like, "Okay." They're like, "We specialize in the troubled teen industry, and we specialize in trying to change the laws." And so basically, at the end of the call, they told me I can give their contact information to any survivor that has gone through any school. And so I've already put their information out to all all the survivors I'm in contact with.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
like,
So
here.
so for all the people listening, do you know what the name of that lawyer firm is?
I don't remember the lawyer firm's name, but I do have their email address and their contact information,
Okay. Tell you
and I will
what.
gladly give it to anyone.
What you can do is go ahead and when the podcast is over, just send it to me in a text or through Messenger, and I'll put it in the description. You know what I mean? That way,
Okay.
people can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
it. Okay.
The only thing, when I talk to them, they ask me not to post their information publicly
Right. Okay.
because
So
they have to yeah.
okay. All right. Well, then I guess whoever listens to
They said once
this can get a hold of me or whatever.
I can give you, yeah, I was going to say I can give you their email address and their law firm information.
Okay.
That way you have it as well, and you can just give it to your people that are the survivors and stuff that come on.
Okay.
The reason why is if their information is out there, they don't want the defendants to use anything against us.
Right.
And so
Right.
they just want to make sure that, yeah.
Okay.
But I will definitely give that to you because the moment they told me they do the troubled teen industry stuff, I was like, dude, we have a long list of people that we've been looking for lawyers like them. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's
I was
wonderful.
excited.
That's wonderful. Finally, something's going to be done. That's good. That's progress.
Yeah, it's
So
amazing how I don't believe in a God, but I do believe that I don't know how to explain it. I do believe other people believe in God, and so I've been there's people that went to the church my parents went to that worked at Circle of Hope, and she actually called me today telling me she's been praying to God, and she's like, it just seems like everything's coming into play now. And I was like, no, I totally agree. I do agree that I don't know how to put it. I feel like it's the time. I feel like if we did this a year earlier, we would have not found these lawyers. We would have not found the news people to push our story. We would have. I just feel like now is the time, and I just see this huge movement happening, not just with Circle of Hope, but within the troubled teen industry as a whole.
yes.
And I just feel so positive now, so positive knowing that we have a group of lawyers that want to help, not just Circle of Hope, but the troubled teen industry.
Right. So what gets me is it's funny that this person said that they would pray for you. I mean, it kind of makes you wonder what took God so long. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
obviously he wasn't there when girls were getting abused. So it just, I guess that's just her only way of
I see
comforting, I guess.
coping. Yeah, it really, and I don't mean that to be offensive to anyone, but those girls have put in so much work to get it to where it's at. And it's amazing to me. I never would have thought a year ago that we would have gotten this far, but for some reason, it's just working out. And we've had more multiple people that we hadn't even spoke to last year coming forward telling us they want to help. They're like, oh my God, it's in the news. And I'm like, yeah, it's in the news. And they're like, thank you. And I'm like, no, like, you don't, like, this isn't about me. This is about all of us. Like, we are all like working really hard. And if it wasn't for Janine or Mackenzie or even the other survivors that like Lala, any of them, we would not be able to go forward because we have them in our background. Like, we have, like, we can call them up and they support us and we support them. And it's just so amazing because I don't think these IFB schools ever thought we were going to connect from different schools and have the same experience and back each other up and become like this one gigantic family.
Was
So
what was your dad
it's just amazing.
Was your dad a big Lester Roloff fan?
I don't think he knew of Lester Roloff until we got into the trouble teen industry because he was more Bob Jones University.
Okay.
And
yeah, Roloff.
Liberty.
Roloff idolized Bob Jones University. Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like...
okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it seems like every time... Well, he preached a lot at the university. But it seems to me that every one of these independent fundamental Baptist slave camps, as I like to call them, have some affiliation with Lester Roloff. So it seems like it's
definitely. I know
it's poison. That's what it is. I don't know. Like I said, Lester Roloff.
It really is.
I never heard of Lester Roloff abusing anybody. It was just his minions that did it, and so I don't know. Maybe he needed to pick better people. I don't know. But he's dead now, so
well,
you don't have to worry.
Well, definitely, like, not just trust your friend because they're your friend. You know, like, just because someone says they're your friend, it doesn't mean they are. Like, I think the church that my parents were going to before they got kicked out, the guy who runs the church there, I don't think he knew to a full extent what was going on at Circle of Hope. But every time someone would try to go to him, he would never believe us. It was always like, oh, he's my friend type of thing, like blind eye.
Right.
Now I think he's biting himself. Like, I think he's like putting his foot in his mouth now because he's seeing. And not only is it the girls coming to him, it's people that were part of his church before we even went to his church. And it's like, okay, instead of just blindly believing someone because you think they are a good person, how about step back and say, first off, I don't agree with these restraining excessive workouts, being push-up position for hours. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't agree with this. And if it comes out that it's true, then you deserve the punishment you deserve, and these girls deserve their justice. But if not, then the girls deserve their punishment for lying on them. Instead of just automatically saying, oh, you're lying because you're a trouble teen. Why not just step back and at least do an investigation yourself? Like, you guys, pastors like to say, God talks to me. Why not pray? Why not sit there and pray on it for a long time? Not just like emotionally think, oh, he's not going to do anything because he's my friend, so God tells me. Why not literally just sit there, pray on it, and like listen to your gut? Like, don't just automatically assume because these girls are troubled that nothing bad can happen to them, because they're still human. They can still be victims. You can be a murderer and still be a victim of rape. Like, it doesn't, just because they're troubled teens does not make anything that happens to them.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, being that they were troubled teens, these leaders would say, well, they're troubled teens. They're going to say anything. They're going to lie. They're going to steal, cheat, whatever they can do to get out of there. So if some girl says that, the pastor so-and-so, sexually touched me or whatever, yeah, okay. You're a troubled teen. You're going to say anything. I think that's why they didn't investigate it, because they figured these kids are always in trouble. They're disrespectful. Why believe them? So, and it worked.
That's the sad thing.
And it worked for a while, but now sooner or later, all the skeletons come out of the closet.
And that's the funny thing. My parents would always tell us the truth would come out, and we would always be punished. We they would think we were lying, even though we weren't. We would be punished for lying. They would make it to where they were right and we were liars.
Right.
And it's hilarious now because it's all like the tables are turned and they are lying. They told KY3 News that they had absolutely no idea that there were allegations out against them.
Oh,
I was like, that's really funny because you guys wrote a letter to your church about me and why these allegations aren't true. They said I was a Satanist. They said I was a Wiccan, a witch, and a Catholic or something along those lines. And I was like, that's really funny because I'm an atheist. I'm not a Satanist. I do like that the Satanists go out there and put up a satanic statue where there's a Ten Commandment statue, because it's really funny to me watching how people like my parents are flipping out over that. But it's freedom for everyone's religion, not just your religion.
The statue,
anyone has a right to practice their religion.
Yep, the statue of Baphomet. Yep, I read that story.
Baphomet, yeah, Baphomet. I do like that they do that, but I am an atheist. I do not believe in heaven. I do not believe in hell. I believe in humans, and I believe we all have one chance to live a good life, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to live the best life I can live, and hopefully my children will do the same, and we will not leave the world the way my parents are leaving the world right now.
See, the problem with religion is they think that, this life here, we have a better life coming. So, life,
yeah.
But atheists are saying, live this life the best you can. You know what I mean? Because this is the only life you get.
Yeah.
So.
And if there is a God, he will know your heart. No other human is going to know your heart better than if there is a God. People have been trying to witness to me recently. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be mad at you, but I want people to understand that I do believe that if there is a God, he's going to know when I die that I'm not a bad person. He's going to know that I just never had that connection with a deity. I always felt like I was talking to myself. I just never saw the same, the way other people act at church. I could just never get into that. And it's not because I'm broken. It's not because of anything. It's just I'm not that way.
If there is a God, then he's going to know exactly what he needs to say to you in order to get you to believe.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
You just got to wait for that. So.
Exactly.
So is there?
Been waiting 29 years.
29 years. So you said they're under investigation. The ranch is completely closed?
It's not closed. That's the sad part. It's just the girls are out and they are under an investigation by multiple state agencies. I don't know if they can accept girls. As far as I figured, they can't take any girl back. They're empty.
Right.
Gut feeling is they are moving.
Oh.
So I don't know.
That's pretty much the MO of a lot of these schools is they'll go to another state where you don't have to have a license and they'll start all over again. And when they start an investigation there, they go to another state. So
they move. Yeah, and that's I've been watching them just to make sure if they do move, I will follow them. I do not believe my parents should ever be in charge of anyone's children ever again. It's been 29 years of them working with kids. It's been, my oldest sibling is 50 something. It's been that many years of them abusing kids.
Right.
They need to retire. I do feel like my dad deserves time behind bars, especially.
Oh, definitely.
Knowing that he's been grooming people, little girls, he's been grooming them and doing what he wants with them, and he deserves to be behind bars. And my mom deserves to be behind bars for sitting there and allowing it to happen.
Right. I was gonna ask you that question. Your mom she knew about it, but she never said anything.
I believe she did, because when Carly went to her, she went into my dad's office. I don't know why he would have a penis pump in his office,
What?
but grabbed his penis
Whoa.
pump and threw it,
Oh,
threw it at
wait.
her.
Oh, hold on. Let me process
Yeah,
that one for a second here.
sorry.
Well, usually when you have a penis pump, that means you have some sort of dysfunction. So,
Yeah,
how old is your dad? Is he like in
but
his late 60s or?
sev-
Oh, okay.
he's 71, but
Okay.
he's been dying since I was little, and I don't think he's dying. I think he is just as strong and healthy as he's ever been.
Hmm.
But when Carly went to her, she threw it at her and said he needs to use this to get it up. And, you know, I I don't know. I feel that just because of the way she acted, instead of being more empathetic and saying, oh my goodness, let me investigate this, she just outright denied it. I think she knows. Um, there's been times he would be giving a devotion and he would tell the girls that he can't rape or molest anyone because he has ED. It's impossible. And
It's not
I don't
impossible.
know. I'm just like, it's weird. Like, who says that?
Yeah.
Exactly,
It's
exactly. I'm like, who says that in the devotions? Like, who says that? Um, unless you were trying to make it seem like you can't.
you don't need to have an erection to touch a girl. You know what I mean? To touch her boob or touch her ass or
Exactly.
whatever. But of course, they make little blue pills now for people with ED. So that's not an excuse.
And I know he's had, and I found Viagra when I was like 12. So he's had Viagra. I know he has Viagra. And when Carly told me that, I was like, that was probably the most traumatizing part for you, huh? And she's like, yeah. I was like, I am so sorry, Carly. I, just because he can't, and I don't, just because he can't get it up for her doesn't mean he doesn't have a sick perversion for little girls.
Right. Right. So another question is, were there ever any drugs? I mean, like people smoke? Did they drink? Did they take, cocaine or anything like that? Was there anything like that in those?
As far as I know, no.
Okay.
But my dad, when I was there, he had um, taken a four-wheeler, and the same girl that, her name's Rachel Kelso, the same girl that is mentally challenged, was out playing softball with a whole bunch of other girls, and she was just standing at her base, and my dad pretended he was going to drive his car, or the four-wheeler, at her, and she jumped out of his way, and he corrected it to the way she was going to jump, and so he ended up hitting another girl, flipping the four-wheeler, and basically breaking his collarbone.
Uh huh.
And so he did have opioids there.
Okay.
And
Please tell me he never abused Rachel Kelso.
that um, okay, so there was a girl named Rachel. Do you want me to say that whole part over?
Well, I mean the girl who was handicapped. He never did anything with her. I hope.
Okay, I don't know.
Oh
And that
man.
was my fear, and that was my main reason of trying to get her out, because there
Right.
was another girl there who had fetal alcohol syndrome,
Uh
and so
huh.
she was developmentally delayed as well. And she came to me this year about her story, telling me that my dad raped her for 3 years.
Oh.
And that's when I was just like, if he can do it to her, I'm almost positive he probably was. I can't say 100% sure, but
Right.
that was my gut feeling, because I just started realizing he was grooming them, and usually to the most vulnerable. There were girls that weren't vulnerable, that were a little older, but they are the ones that stood up to him, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but most of them that were penetrated were the most vulnerable, and I wouldn't put it past.
That's
It was my fear.
that's
I can't
usually
guarantee it, but I honestly was afraid.
That's usually what perverts do. They take the ones that are the weakest, or like you said, have certain handicaps, and abuse them. That's that's sad.
Yeah.
Sad.
It honestly was one of the most hardest things to come to term with, that my dad most likely was hurting her in that way. And if I ever found that out, I don't think I would be able to contain myself.
Yeah.
I would be so mad.
Well, we'll just let the courts decide. I'm sure, like I said, it'll all come out.
Exactly.
It'll all come out in the end. So,
Yeah.
all right, Amanda. Anything else you'd like to add?
Um, I think the only thing is, I know my parents think that I hate them and I'm doing this out of hate, but in reality, I do love my parents. I don't love what they stand for, but we were always raised on tough love. And I feel the way they raised us tough love was completely wrong, because it shouldn't be hurting the kid for you to love them. But I feel like tough love is what I'm having to do now, and that's telling my parents that they are wrong, but not, but still loving them and not standing for their stuff. I know they think I hate them, but in reality, I despise what they're doing. But they're still my parents, and I do wish that they could see what they are doing is wrong and just make amends. But it's been so many years that that will never happen.
Right. Is there a group on Facebook that anybody can get a hold of if they've been at the Circle of Hope?
We do. We have it's called Proactive Survivors of Circle of Hope.
Uh
It's a
huh.
completely private group. So if you
Right.
went there, you don't have to be afraid to say what you went through.
Right.
We also have a organization that we started. It's called Exposing Circle of Hope. And we are going to be putting, we already found the lawyers, but now we're going to be getting together a list of therapists that will be willing to help troubled teen kids, not just Circle of Hope. We just kept the name Exposing Circle of Hope because that's what it's starting with, and we're going
Mm-hmm.
to help other survivors from any troubled teen industry. That's our plan, to get into therapy. And if they need a place to stay, because like at Circle of Hope, girls have gone homeless, and I even went homeless, and that's my biggest fear. Is like, I don't want little girls going homeless, not even little boys. So we will be getting funding to help at least get them into a place until they can get a job and on their feet.
Right.
And so
So if you
that's
could,
called Exposing Circle of Hope.
so if you could, after the podcast, if you could send me the link to that group, so if there's any girl from the Circle of Hope,
Yeah.
you can get that on. Even, and I'm talking to the audience here. Anybody, even the Agape Boys Home. I mean, if you want to come on and tell your story, just there's a phone number on the top of the channel page. Text me, let me know. We'll set up a time. So, and keep me abreast on what's going on with the lawyer thing, the courts. I'm really curious to find out
Definitely.
what happens. So, but it's good that everybody is standing together and fighting these perverts. That's what they are. They're perverts.
Yeah. I don't think they were they don't I don't think they realized they were creating a whole bunch of warriors to
No,
fight them. So,
no, they didn't. They figured you were just going to just let it go and just say,
yeah.
hey, this is what happened. It is what it is, and we're just going to continue on with our life. But no, they have to pay for what they've done. So, I mean, isn't
Yep.
isn't that what the Bible says? You know, they sh-
Mhm.
so if they're such scholars of the Bible, they should know that if you sin, it's going to be found out.
Yeah.
Basically, so
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, that's how it goes. Well, Amanda, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. This has been quite informative. I wasn't too keen on the Circle of Hope. I've been working on the roll-off homes and Bethesda homes, but it's seems like the same story. And like I said, that's sad. And they're all Baptists. So, but it's going to come out in the wash, and these people are going to get what they deserve soon, hopefully. So,
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
yes, the pleasure is all mine. Like I said, stay on the phone line. I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast, and well, I want to talk to you a little bit more. Okay, hold on just a second.
Okay. Okay.
So, everybody, thank you for listening to the Hammer Podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, like and comment. And like I said, links will be in the description below. So we'll see you next time. Please take care of each other and take care of yourselves.